In July 20, Ukraine Media Center confirmed starts its operation. My name is Svetlana Chaparenko. We continue tracking the situation with the grain corridor, and now we will talk about alternative agreements. Joining us online is Vasyl Bodnar, Ukraine's ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary to the Republic of Turkey. Good afternoon, Mr. Vasyl. Good afternoon. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. Mr. Vasyl, we observed the Russians inflicting strikes on our port infrastructure as a result of Russia's withdrawal from the grain deal. So is, in your opinion, the grain deal so beneficial to Putin, and what's going on now is just raising the stakes? Well, it's important for the world, but for Putin is the tool to press on the world and on the countries who received that grain from Ukraine, and obviously Putin wants to achieve certain goals on his part, but we have to stand our ground. We have to reiterate our stance about the continuation of the grain deal, so it's in compliance with the best interests of the world food security. What Putin does is the blackmailing, is the raising stakes in his dialogue with the world, is the attempt to force the global community to succumb to that blackmailing by the terrorists. So let's call the things what they are. The war resulted in restriction of access to Ukrainian ports, and Grain Initiative was an attempt to find a way out for Ukrainian exports under conditions of war to satisfy the needs of the global food security. Russia tries to impede it and is the pressure not only on Ukraine, but also on other representatives of international community who require that grain now. It's 45 countries that were covered by that initiative. Now another grain deal option is being considered without Russia's participation, and Russia considers the option of transporting the grain through territorial waters of Croatia and Romania. Lithuania proposed their port logistic capabilities. What are another participants being considered, and what are the alternative formats being considered? Well, look, within the grain initiative, there is a grain corridor arranged. Both aggressor countries and the mediators agreed to that corridor, and the proposals to use the territorial waters of Romania and Bulgaria is an alternative, which is not yet discussed on the official level. The president submitted the proposal to Turkey and United Nations to continue this initiative in trilateral format, because we've never withdrawn from the agreement. We have obligations in front of Turkey and United Nations, and the mechanism that was arranged and set up, it can function in trilateral format. Russia was not a constructive participant of the process. Their role was boiling down to only not attacking the ports and the ships. On the other hand, the mediators, United Nations and Turkey, they have full capability to inspect the vessels and to confirm that there is no arms or weapons or material or other products that are not contemplated by the grain deal being transported by those vessels. So this is the essence of our proposal. Let's use what we have, but without excluding any alternative capabilities and formats. However, now the key task is to secure the transportation. We see what's going on within the last 2 nights. There were statements from the White House that Russia may start attacking the civilian vessels. What needs to be done to make sure the corridor operates in a safe and secure way? Well, none of the international partners is ready to undertake any responsibility for the security of the vessels. Nobody wants to get in war with Russia. Only Ukraine is involved in any battle operations. So we need to find the ways out within the existing format, and we hope that Turkey will have negotiations with the aggressor countries so we can revert to the previously achieved agreements, and other partners will not succumb to this direct blackmailing by the aggressor country. The most problematic issue is the matter of insurance of the companies that may take part in the initiative without Russia's participation, and we propose our solution, the insurance fund created by Ukraine, and we are ready to get some businesses involved. There are companies who are ready to go that pathway within this new initiative, but we still need support not only of the mediators of the grain deal, but of the broader crowd, broader circle of countries under the formula of President Zelensky for achievement of peace and preparation of the peace summit, where global food security sector is contemplated for discussion, and the participants of the future peace summit may get involved to use their levers of influence on the aggressor country, as well as help in development of alternative routes and safe and secure export of grain. Turkey is one of the biggest importers of Ukrainian grain, and they don't want to lose that market, obviously. Can we expect any or some more resolute actions by the Turkey to ensure the safe and secure transportation of Ukrainian grain? Well, Turkey is definitely interested in continuation of the grain deal. The grain is being supplied to Turkey, it's being processed in Turkey, and Turkey may reinforce their negotiation positions as the mediator, and it increases their global role. The majority of the countries where the Ukrainian grain goes to, they appreciate our input and the input of Turkish Republic as well. So this is why Turkey has some levers of influence on Russia. We expect the negotiations to happen on the bilateral level, and we'll see how it goes. Thank you. Let's proceed to the matter of military cooperation between Ukraine and Turkey, and what is the phase of construction of Bayraktar factory. Well, you know, it's a top secret information. We're not talking about the phases. We don't disclose any details. The only thing I can say publicly is that the next week we are going to have a big international defense exhibition where Ukrainian side will take part as well, and we expect the negotiations to continue in the area of unmanned aerial vehicles and high-tech and other areas that are very important for Ukraine for the time being, those which reinforce our defense cooperation and allow for the cooperation on the mutually beneficial conditions. Thank you. And another question regarding the return of the Azov commanders. Can you please share any details about the peculiarities of these operations, its conditions? Well, I've already made some statements in Ukrainian broadcast, but I cannot add anything new other than it was a very meticulous work by a number of government officials. Obviously, the President Zelensky was in negotiations with President Erdogan, Dmytro Kuleba, Andriy Yermak, other representatives of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the special services of Ukraine. They were all in negotiations on different levels, and those negotiations ended successfully upon the visit of President Zelensky to Istanbul. The guys are back in Ukraine. It's a great plus to increase morale of our security and defense forces, as well as increasing of capabilities, of defense capabilities. But what we've heard by the statements that we've heard from the aggressor country is an attempt to justify themselves in front of the internal audience. All those accusations by Kremlin, they should be only ignored and not be paid any attention to. It's a part of the psychological operations that are only to justify the activities of Putin in front of his population. Thank you, dear colleagues. Let's proceed to the questions from the floor. Good afternoon, Nadia Yushchenko, Ukrinform. I have a couple of questions. Yesterday, President Zelensky has stated that the grain corridor will not be secure should the United Nations proceed to some more resolute actions on the level of Secretary General, but we know that Secretary General of the United Nations is not quite a resolute person, but this option was discussed before when the such option was discussed to give a flag of the United Nations to those vessels that work under the grain deal. Would it be a good solution to this situation, in your opinion? Thank you. Does the United Nations flag guarantee the protection against Russian rockets and getting those vessels drowned? We've heard the statement by the Ministry of Defense of the aggressor country that any ships leaving Ukraine are military targets. It's a piracy, in fact. There is no United Nations flag needed. It's an international open waters, and the ships that go with the humanitarian cargo may move freely within the open international corridors, and the fact that Russia closes them is a violation of maritime law, is the violation of the right of free passage of the vessels, and we only have to think about protection against those attacks. The flag would not help here. What President says is true. United Nations has to be more active in terms of not pushing the interests of the aggressor country, but as to the protection of the sovereign rights of Ukraine, which are violated by the Russian war. It's an absolutely fair and just message that should be responded to with actions and not with an attempt to placate the dictator. Well, another question. You said we have to wait for the negotiations between Putin and Erdogan. What is your opinion about those negotiations? They're about to happen next month. Maybe they would be postponed. What should we do meanwhile? Should we wait or should we do something? Are any actions necessary on our part during this season? It's not a dead season. It's a negotiations process. Every party has their own interests, and depending on the arguments they produce, there will be a relevant result. But we understand that the initiative should be continued. It's necessary for the global food security and for us, and I'm convinced that our transportators will look for the alternative ways for export of grain through this grain corridor. So let's wait, or let's remember that we may use the Danube ways, the land ways, the railways. We have to think about alternative maritime passages, but we should not speculate on my level or on your level. It should be discussed on the level of experts. On top of that, I think that we should get more countries involved, those who were the bigger recipients of Ukrainian grain, like China, Spain, African countries, for example. Soon there will be a summit of Russian and African countries, and what the aggressor does, I mean the attacks on the Ukrainian ports infrastructure, and they want to propose their grain to them, and we have to calculate those risks too. It may be one of the motivators for the aggressor country in order not to allow the resumption of operation of grain corridor. And another question regarding the return of the Azov commanders. We appreciate the actions of Mr. Erdogan, but there are still many of the Azov servicemen kept as prisoners. Is it real that Mr. Erdogan gets involved in the negotiations about them getting free? Yes, obviously Turkey is a mediator. They play a significant role in all that process, starting with the state and ending with their family members. This issue is being discussed all the time. And we're talking not only about the Azovstal defenders, but other prisoners of war, kidnapped children, the civilians that were abducted and who stay in the Russian prisoners. It's about the political prisoners who were captured in Crimea too, more than 150 persons. It's a big piece of work, and Turkish party expresses a very constructive position in this regard. and the success depends on the position of the aggressor country. So everything should be calculated in complex, and we'll see how it evolves. Thank you very much, Mr. Vasyl. I'll remind you, joining us was Vasyl Bodnar, the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary to the Republic of Turkey. And at 1500, we will have a presentation of the study on the impact of Russian armed aggression on the environment of Ukraine. Stay tuned.